Okay, class. So this is where I ended with my slides on Matlab, where I was talking about scripts. Um, I didn't quite get to my slides on functions, so I'm going to give you just a quick example. So a function basically takes in some sort of input. It could be a number, it could be a string, performs some operation on that information, and then spits out new information in the form of outputs. Every MATLAB function begins with the word function, just all lowercase, and then in brackets if you've got more than one, or you can just have one variable that's the output. You say whatever that output is going to equal the whatever function name you give it. So this could be anything that you decide on, as long as there's no like spaces or parentheses, or it's not named the same as some other MATLAB function. And then in parentheses, whatever the inputs are. So if it takes in one variable, there'd just be a x1 here, or it could take in multiple variables, or it may take in nothing at all, in which case there would just be an opening and a closing parentheses here. So here's an example. You have access to this. It's on the Google Drive, but this is just a function that takes in concentrations, initial concentrations of a reaction, and the stoichiometric coefficients, and spits out the equilibrium concentrations. Determines which one is an excess, A or B, and then does that. But because I'm doing this in a screencast, I'm not going to talk through a static example. I'll actually just take one from, well, I'll write one live-ish. But I'm going to start with the example that Philip created in the discussion section, where you calculated E using a while loop. So I've just taken this code and retyped it into MATLAB. Just didn't put in all the comments, but it's pretty much the same code. So if I run this, you can see I've already ran it, but when I do run this, it does calculate E, spits it out right there, and that's what you'd expect. So this is just a script, it's not a function. To make it a function, we have to start with function, and then tell it what we want to output. Presumably we want to output E, so we're going to say E equals, and then we have to give it some function name. Notice that if I just give it like a random bunch of characters, it puts a red line under there, because MATLAB would prefer that you name your functions the same as the file name for the function. So you mouse over, it tells you the error, you can right click on that and click replace function name, and now these two match up. So for now, let's not have it have any inputs. I'm just going to have it be like that. No need to have a semicolon. One thing that we're not going to want is for the function to clear all the variables and all that stuff as it runs, because we might run this many times in a single script. We don't want it to get rid of the variables that we already have. So I'm going to get rid of those. I'm just going to save it. I'm going to start with a clean slate. So now all our variables are gone. Clear. Now if I run this, it basically runs that script and it spits out whatever answer. It spits out E. I can also say, EX, or just to give it a different file name, equals this sample function. Now EX is equal to E. Clear everything. But let's say that we wanted to give it some input. Maybe we don't need the tolerance to be as strict as it is. Right now it's 1e minus 15. So instead of doing it the way we were doing it, I can now instead pass it tolerance. So I'm going to pass tolerance to it. So now I don't declare this in the function, because this is something that's going to be passed. So I'm just going to comment that out for now. And if I hit run, it's not going to work because it's expecting tolerance as one of the inputs. So now instead of doing that, oops, if I go up here and run the function again, EX equals function, that's not going to work. But now instead, if I pass it 1e minus 15, now it works. And I get my value of E. And now I can change my tolerance. Maybe I don't want a strict tolerance. Maybe I want 1e minus 5. Still gives me the same value of E, but as I lower the tolerance, I'm going to get less and less accurate values of the natural log. Okay, so right now it's spitting out E, taking in tolerance. I can also have it give me more of the variables back. I can have it give me also the change, which is indicative of the error. So now it takes intolerance and it should give me back E and change, both of them. So if I go down here and run this, and I just ran it where I have one variable equals the example while function, and it spit out the one answer. It didn't give me back my change. And it was not because I didn't save it, it's because I need to tell it that I expect two things back from it. So, there. So now I've told it I'm going to pass it tolerance, and I want back the E value and the change value. And indeed, I can see that that is less than 1e minus 1. If I change this to 1e minus 5, I get a more precise value of E and a different value for the change, which is less than 1e minus 5, which is what you would expect. Okay, I'll go on to another example in just a bit.